Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Friday, April 12, 2019, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, everybody's up, and not Shanghai, they're down. Over there in Europe, it's up. Here in the States, it's up. Oil's up. Gold is down, and Bitcoin, beep, down a bit. Dow rises 269 points. The S&P 500 broke above the key 2,900 level and stood at less than 1% from that record high. JP Morgan Chase came out, the banksters, and their profits were good and high. And also, energy stocks are up because the oil prices are going up. And of course, another nice merger. Make those bigger, bigger. Bring those monopolies to monopolistic monopolies. Keep rising them up and getting them fatter. Chevron and Anadarko deal petroleum, $33 billion cash and stock deal. Chevron bought them out. And a lot of positive corporate news coming out. So this mega takeover trend continues. That's what drives a lot of the markets, along with stock buybacks. And data came out of China, and it said it was stronger than expected exports. But that's questionable because it had something to do with the Lunar New Year, so they were artificially pushed up, because if they were real, the Shanghai index would not have closed down 1.34%. So there's still weakness in China, still weakness in the global markets. And again, I said oil prices went up. They've gone up between Brent and West Texas 30-40% this year. Why? Well, one of the reasons is that wonderful wars going on over there in Libya, the sanctions Trump's put on Venezuela, other ones on Syria. And the head of Libya's National Oil Corporation warned on Friday that renewed fighting could wipe out crude production in the country. So what do we see? This is the wild card that could bring down the markets. As I've said, this is the beginning of the driving season. So the more money you put in your gas tank, the less that goes into the cash registers at retail, restaurants, and hospitality, and on and on and on. So Saudi Arabia is considering to keep cutting because they have to get oil to over $100 a barrel for their economy to break even. So there we are. We're seeing demand going up a little bit. And again, if you see oil hitting $100 a barrel, mwah, kiss the economies goodbye. And the equity markets. Economists see Fed holding rates flat. You know what that is.
That was bullshit.
You got it. They ain't going to hold them flat. They're going to lower them. And again, we had an economic 9/11 when they were raising rates. We hit it perfectly. You saw what happened. We had the worst December in 2018 since the Great Depression. Once they started to be, quote, patient in raising interest rates on January 4th, 2019, we said no recession and the Trump bump, and here we are. So they're a little weak on this. So here's some of the forecasts that we're hearing. This guy, Jim Paulson from Leothol Group, he's tempering his bull case for stocks, but he finds full-on policy support from the Federal Reserve and White House favorable for additional stock market gains. We have a good deal of fear of bear markets, fear of recessions, fear of negative yields, fear of reverting curves. We're climbing a wall of worry. So we'll get back to overheat conditions and pressures that could come as early as the end of the year, maybe sometimes next year. Again, where better news is bad news again, is what he said. So he's tempering his calls for the markets to continue to rise strongly. Then you have Alan Greenspan, the former Fed chairman, and he says the economy will start to fade very dramatically because of entitlement burdens. And that's us baby boomers that are collecting Social Security and they don't have the money to pay us. He said, I think the real problem is over the long run. We've got the significant continued drain coming from entitlements, which are basically draining capital investment dollar for dollar. You know what that is.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
What are you talking about, investment? They're taking that money and buying back the stocks, the tens of billions that each company is doing, like the Apples and on and on. Anyway, Greenspan said much of the improvement has come from a rise in stock market prices. You got it. He sees a stock market aura in the economy, a rise of 10%. The economy is going to begin to fade out because Europe is not doing well, and we will have problems where there's a very substantial fiscal problem associated with entitlements. And Jamie Dimon, the head of the JP Morgan Chase gang, he says U.S. expansion could go on for years. I disagree. I've been talking about the decline in the middle class. More and more studies coming out just about each day this week. Real-time economics, the middle class is shrinking. Check this one fact out. In the U.S., young women are living at home at the highest rate on record, and men aren't far behind. Isn't that great? IMF warns of tip of the iceberg threat over volatility. Recent abrupt gyrations in financial markets could be the tip of the iceberg, according to the top International Monetary Fund, or is it the International Mafia Federation? So again, we have this volatility. It's in Europe, it's in China. The United States is doing better than everybody else because our interest rates are higher and we could lower them. And as I am forecasting, I believe you're going to see them lowered this year. And what's keeping it going? Again, I mentioned the chemical industry merger and acquisition. And another one coming, Berlin yields on case for bank tie-up. Deutsche Bank and Commerce Bank to have 1.8 trillion pounds in assets. Isn't that great? Get them banks this bigger. This way they become really too big to fail. Oh, and by the way, keep putting everybody else out of business so very few could own a lot, because that's all it's become. And then you look at these two banks. Deutsche Bank, let's see. Deutsche Bank's 71% share price fall over the past 5 years. Commerce Bank share price has fallen 42%. Between 2015 and 2017, Deutsche Bank reported billions in losses. And they had to pay up to 17 billion in euros in fines for criminal charges. Yeah, make them bigger. And what else do we have here? Drug groups defy political heat on prices by imposing triple-digit percent rises. Isn't that great? Keep them bigger so they can steal everything they want from we the little people, the workers on the plantation of Slavelandia, run by the multinational plantation owners. Coinbase gets physical as platform for cryptocurrencies or for UK debit card. Coinbase, a cryptocurrency exchange, has launched a Visa debit card in the UK, allowing customers to make purchases and cash withdrawals directly from their accounts, the cryptocurrency accounts, including Bitcoin. This is big because what it's saying is it's not going away. And we're seeing Bitcoin stabilizing around $5,000 a coin, and that's still really high. So this is a positive piece of information for the cryptocurrency world, because as you know what I say, the world is going cashless, and cryptos are going to be a part of that cashless society. Thousands of Sudanese protest against military takeover. Joy turns to anger for hoodwink Sudan protesters. We've been reporting about this for over a month. And they came out yesterday and they took out that guy that's been running the show for 30 years. It was a military coup. But now the people realize that nothing has happened. Change will not happen with Bashir's entire regime hoodwinking Sudanese civilians through a military coup, tweeted Allah Salah, who has become an icon of the protest movement. So there you go. The Arab Spring, and this is what I said, the Arab Spring never sprung because once the people overthrew it, the governments, another form of the military government took over, just like in Egypt and other places. So not a lot changes. Trump optimistic on Korea talks. Why is this important? Because we're saying that Trump has an option over here to win the 2020 election. We say there's going to be a peace treaty with Korea and the end of the Afghan war, and those are going to be positives for him for the 2020 reality show. And what else do we have over here? Julian Assange. You know, he had that book he was carrying by Gore Vidal. And one of the quotes in that Gore Vidal book, it was disgusting what they did, those taking him out like that. The people have no voice because we have no information, Vidal asserted. It could be useful to tell them, actually, what happens around the world. And again, we're on the same page because you know what I say. They're only prostitutes, corporate whores, paid for by their Washington whoremasters and their corporate Johns. You cannot get through destiny of the propaganda with which the American people, through the dreaded media, have been filled, and the horrible public educational system we have for the average person. It's just grotesque, Vidal said. Yep, that's what I say. The education system in this country stinks. And the kind of taxes we have to pay for it are disgusting. And that's why it's dumb Fukistan. I can't say the other word. And Hillary Clinton, when she heard about Gore Vidal, she was happy. This is the one we saw, he died, when about Gaddafi, when she found out that he died. And she was happy what happened over here. Hillary Clinton didn't hold back her glee. She said, I do think it's a little ironic that he may be the only foreigner that this administration would welcome to the United States, talking about bringing Assange here. Then the only person in the Democratic Party that I've seen it come out to it, B.S. Bernie's been silent on it, about Assange is Tulsi Gabbard, who I respect for what she's been saying so far, particularly on the war front. And she said, the rest of Julian Assange is meant to send a message to all Americans and journalists. Be quiet, behave, toe the line, or you will pay the price. And that's what she tweeted, and that's what I agree. And that's why that's one of our top trends, censorship, 2019. Plan for 5G cell phone towers raises health concerns in Moraga, California. So they're trying to fight this. So read your Trends Journal. You got it. The government, 5G wireless industry, perpetrate scientific fraud. One story after another. It's all here. 5G technology, a lesson in how elites control and conquer, by Peter Tochi. It's a killer. And City Council votes to ban employees' marijuana testing of applicants. This is in New York City. Yeah, how about testing for all those big pharma drugs that are screwing people's minds up, huh? How many lives they ruin with marijuana testing and the rest of it anyway. Also in New York, big story here, a new restaurant to open up right there in Union Square. Lucky Lee's, clean Chinese food. Yep. Clean Chinese. They're talking about clean food. But it prompts outrage because it's owned by a white restaurateur who's saying that, this Chinese food has a lot of stuff in it that you don't want. The typical stuff. And what she's saying about clean food, Ms. Haspel's blog and her food videos promotes something she calls clean eating. I coined the term clean food. It was in the Trends Journal. She's calling it clean eating, which to her means things like eating organic, avoiding additives, and using olive oil instead of canola. Again, you look it up, 1993, I coined the term clean food, and the New York Times did a very big story about it, but they write about a story about her with clean eating. You know what that is.
Bullshit level, DEFCON 5.
And then finally, New Zealand killings spur swift passage of gun control. You can't even have a small magazine now. Gun control is as effective as the war on drugs. You get one madman or two or three committing these heinous acts, and everybody has to give up their guns. Get this in your head, all you liberals out there, that there are 350 million plus guns in the United States. The criminals will get, and the madmen will get, and the madwomen will get anything that they want. Banning the guns is an assault on our Second American rights and the rights of freedom. It will do nothing. Just like the same lousy, low-life freaks banned marijuana. Yeah. And ruined all those tens of millions of lives, and everybody knows you could get it anytime you wanted. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.